Warning, the following 30-minute pre-recorded podcast contains a guy giving his own personal opinions going on in sports, entertainment, and other things happening in the world, but no politics. Also, he will try his best not to swear, but then again, he might let out a swear or two loose because that's how people talk sometimes. So, if you do not want to hear him babble and possibly swear for about 30 minutes, you may click out at this time. And if you have not clicked off, enjoy the podcast.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's showtime.
Hello everybody and welcome to Colton Not So Live podcast. The podcast where I finally got my mic fixed, and all I had to do was restart my computer. Yeah, somehow it wasn't my mic that was broken, it was my computer. So yeah. Before we get into today's topics, I just want to come out and say something. So, before recording this podcast, I got into an argument with one of my friends, and he's been saying that I need to take this podcast and basically just straight up, record my podcast with also a webcam and also, do all this other stuff, but I tried telling him that I don't have space in my room because I've got so much stuff in my room, and also I got nowhere to put a monitor, I got no place to put a desk. It's all filled with tubs of stuff that I own, so I don't have any space to put anywhere. And basically he's technically saying that my podcast would be better if I had webcam and all this sorts of stuff, and I honestly just don't have any place to put this stuff. Where am I going to place a monitor? Where am I going to place a desk? I've got so much stuff in my room that I really don't have anywhere to place it. So yeah, I want to do and here's the thing, guys. I really want to do these on-camera podcasts that normally a lot of people do, but I can't. Why? Well, the main issue is finding places to put all the stuff, like the desk, the monitor. Then I gotta buy a soundboard, and I gotta probably get another mic, which mics aren't that much. But yeah, and I've got nowhere to put a podcast studio. There's a spare room in my house, but I don't think that spare room has been going through so many renovations and stuff. The spare room, it used to be our exercise room, but then we tore it down, just remade it into a spare room for guests. And honestly, I don't think my parents would like that if they turned the guest room into a freaking podcast studio. And honestly, there's no other room in my house that I could put a podcast studio. And yes, I still do live with my parents. And I know what my buddy's gonna be saying, then get your driver's license and move out. So yeah, I am one of those YouTubers that still does not have their driver's license and still lives with their parents. So yeah. And he's saying that my podcast that should be better. It should have video and should just straight up just be better so I can earn more viewers and earn more subscribers so that, I don't have to, just do, the recordings of like the voice recordings and then just, the background being, my podcast logo. So yeah. While I want to do these things, I just can't. I just can't. And I don't know if he understands. He probably does. I don't know. But it's really affecting my mental health. Like, I could not think. Like, I didn't even want to. I felt like not doing this podcast today. But I'm doing it because I basically have to. I have to hit my deadline. I have to get this out before 10 a.m., which right now it's 1 in the morning on a Friday, which is the Friday I'm trying to release these podcasts for you. Every Friday at 10 a.m. And I was very close to just not doing it. And unfortunately, guys, I'm kind of deciding on canceling the podcast and just scrapping it all together and just focusing on gaming, because I've tried to do what many channels have done before, like many channels started out with gaming and then they decided to do like other things like sketch comedy, podcasts, and everything all at the same time. But right now, it looks like it's not working out, so I'm thinking about not doing the podcast anymore because it's going nowhere. And honestly, nobody watches it. I feel like nobody watches it. I know some people do watch it, but I mean, what's the point about doing a podcast? I've tried everything to, try and make this podcast be, good and whatever, but I feel like it's another failure. I haven't had much success since my time at Ohio Media School. Like, when I did my radio show over at WDG Underground Columbus, it was great. But then I had to leave, and then I started a new live, podcast type show on my Facebook page, and then here we are here. So, probably going to start ending the podcast and just focus on gaming because my mental health can't take it. I really, really cannot take this. Because if one person attacks me and tells it how it is, it just makes me depressed and makes me it just makes me think I'm a failure. Like, I try hard, but I guess I don't try hard enough. I really try to just make something great, or at least something entertainable. But I guess it's not entertainable. It's crap, I guess. But yeah, so I'm debating on whether to keep this podcast going or just ending it. You'll probably hear from me at the end of the year. Like near the end of the year. Probably leading more towards probably late November or early December. you guys will get an update on the future of the podcast and all that stuff. So, yeah. All right. And with that, time to move on with today's topics. Ohio State versus Illinois. Ohio State won, and the Yellow Buck is ours. Cool. The defense, they did pretty well. Pretty well, especially during some of the goal line stances, which is pretty good. But the offense, they do need some work. Like, seriously. The play calling, it was okay. Like, if we're talking about, like, some of the plays that have been called, some of the play calls were okay, some of them were questionable, some of them were like, what are you doing? But, yeah. The offense needs some work. Hopefully Hartline can call better plays, and hopefully he'll get that all squared away before they play Wisconsin, which is who they play next. And honestly, all Ohio State just needs to do is just play out how they've been playing. And, yeah, they'll be able to beat Wisconsin, because Wisconsin got blown out at home by Iowa. So they just play how they've been playing for the past 6 games. They'll be okay. So yeah, just play how you've been playing, and you won't lose to Wisconsin. So yeah. So yeah, that's it for me talking about Ohio State. Now it's time to talk about the Week 7 madness that happened last week. Penn State lost to Northwestern, and that was crazy. They were 20-point favorites against Northwestern. And then after the game, like a couple days later, Penn State fired James Franklin as their head coach. So James Franklin didn't even make it to his 13th season, which is the season that John Cooper got fired. So, yeah. The James Franklin era comes to an end halfway through the season. And now Penn State will have to try and recuperate and prevent themselves from getting a losing season. And keep in mind, Penn State was preseason number 2, and a lot of people had Penn State win the national title. So, yeah. They went from national title contenders to straight up not even, contending for the national title anymore. So, yeah. Indiana, they beat Oregon, and they put the whole college football world on notice. So, yeah. Indiana is now a national title contender, as well as a Big Ten championship contender. Now, we all know Indiana is never good at anything at football. But Kurt Cincinnati, holy crap. He is definitely putting something together. And I believe that he is the future for Indiana. And honestly, he could be around Indiana for a long time. And I think they already just fucking got him a contract extension, didn't they? I think they did. It was recently. Yeah. 8 years, $93 million. That's his contract extension. And honestly, it's deserved. It is pretty well deserved. And since he got that contract extension for 8 years, dude is going to be coaching until he's like 72. He's 64 right now and could be coaching into his 70s maybe. And who knows? He actually might, bring Indiana to prominence probably during his tenure. But we'll just have to wait and see. Besides, there's a second half of football we have to play, so yeah. Washington State almost beat Ole Miss until Ole Miss found out they, still play football. And somehow won 24-21, which is insane. Missouri lost to Alabama, and Missouri almost beat Alabama. But Bama somehow pulled away. So Bama is right now back on the driver's seat for playoff contention. So yeah. Texas beat Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry. And yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, somehow Texas showed up and beat Oklahoma. Crazy. And then Georgia, they won against Auburn in the Deep South's oldest rivalry. But they won it in controversy. They won it in controversy because so many questionable calls and a lot of questionable penalties. And therefore, those questionable calls and penalties helped out Georgia. And they ended up winning somehow. Pitt, they beat Florida State. Somehow they beat Florida State. And now Florida State is back to being unranked. So, the win against Alabama was a fluke, is what I'm seeing here. So, basically, Alabama didn't show up to play that 1 week, and Florida did. Well, Florida State did. And now, Alabama's now actually playing good football, and Florida State's back to playing terrible football. So, yeah. Utah beat Arizona State, which was pretty insane. And then Colorado upset Iowa State. So, now the Big 12 is going crazy because Texas Tech, BYU, and Cincinnati are the front runners right now for the Big 12 championship, which is pretty insane. And then the Cheaters, also known as the Michigan Wolverines, they lost to USC. Cool. That is cool. Alright, so with that, it's now time to move on to Week 9 of the high school football predictions here. Last week, I went 17-2. And I got the game of the week right, so cool. Alright, so here we go for Week 9 high school football predictions. First up, we got number 1 Bishop Watterson versus Northwest. I'm going to go with Bishop Watterson. Next game, we got number 17 Hilliard Bradley against number 2 Olentangy Orange. I'm going with Olentangy Orange. Now we got Taze Valley. I don't know how I got Tennessee out of that. But it's Taze Valley against number 3 Pickerington Central. I'm going to go with Pickerington Central. Next game, we got number 24 New Albany versus number 4 Pickerington North. I'm going to go with Pickerington North. Dublin Scioto versus number 5 Big Walnut. I'm going to go with Big Walnut. Next game, we got number 6 Gahanna Lincoln against number 23 Grove City. I'm going to go with Gahanna Lincoln. We got Pleasant versus number 7 Shelby. I'm going to go with Shelby. Number 8 Upper Arlington versus Dublin Kaufman. I'm going to go with Upper Arlington. And we got number 9 London versus Tecumseh. I'm going to go with London. And the next game is a Friday Night Rivals game. Number 10 Olentangy versus Dublin Jerome. I'm going to go with Olentangy. Alright, next game we got number 11 Olentangy Liberty against Hilliard Davidson. I'm going to go with Olentangy Liberty. Lancaster versus number 12 Canal Winchester. I'm going to go with Canal Winchester. Number 13 Galleon versus Marion Harding. I'm going to go with Galleon. Number 15 St. Francis de Sales versus Harrison. I'm going with St. Francis de Sales. Number 18 Bishop Hartley versus Kip Columbus. I'm going to go with Bishop Hartley. Marysville versus number 19 Olentangy Berlin. I'm going to go with Olentangy Berlin. Number 20 Lexington versus Madison Comprehensive, a high school we haven't heard from in a while. I'm going to go with Lexington over Madison Comprehensive. Mount Vernon versus number 21 Licking Valley. I'm going to go with Licking Valley. Number 22 Groveport Madison against Logan. I'm going to go with Groveport Madison. And Worthington Kilbourne versus Westerville North. I'm going with Worthington Kilbourne. And now for the Week 9 high school football game of the week here. It is number 14 Harvest Prep against my alma mater, number 16 Westerville South. And honestly, there was not a lot of good high school football games to, pick for game of the week, so I decided to go with Harvest Prep against Westerville South. So number 14 Harvest Prep versus number 16 Westerville South. And I am going to go with my alma mater, Westerville South, to defeat Harvest Prep. So yeah. Alright, so that's all the high school football picks. Well, predictions for me. Hopefully I get them all right. Hopefully. And now, before we end the podcast, here are the college football games to watch out for. Obviously, the first one's Ohio State versus Wisconsin. And I believe Ohio State will win. Next one is LSU versus Vanderbilt. Kind of leaning towards Vanderbilt. And then Ole Miss versus Georgia. I'm going to go with Georgia to beat Ole Miss. Tennessee versus Alabama, the third Saturday in October. And I'm going to go Tennessee with this one. I think Tennessee will beat Alabama. Then we got USC versus Notre Dame for the Jules Schley. I'm going to go with USC. If USC can beat Michigan, they can beat Notre Dame. And then finally, the Holy War with Utah and BYU. Honestly, I think BYU is going to beat Utah. There's no way Utah is going to win this game. So I'm going to go with BYU over Utah. So yeah. Well, with that, guys, that is it for this podcast. Honestly, I didn't think it would be under 30 minutes, but it is, according to the audio. So, yeah. According to the timer, it's obviously over 30 minutes. I mean, not over 30 minutes, under 30 minutes. So, yeah, under 30-minute podcast today. So, yeah, thank you all for tuning into this episode of the podcast. If you enjoyed it, smack a like on it, subscribe if you're new to this channel, check out my other videos I've uploaded to my channel. And be sure to tune into future episodes of the podcast, because obviously sometime in the future I will announce my decision on whether to keep this podcast going or just completely shut it down and forget that it ever happened. So, yeah. So, stay tuned for that message. We'll stay tuned for what I decide. So, yeah. And with that, guys, I would like to say thank you again for listening and tuning in, and I will see you guys next week for another podcast episode. And yeah, that's basically it. So with that, I will see you all later. Bye-bye.
Disappointed.